and welcome to OmniFit TV. This is your host Omar speaking, and today I'm basically making this video because I want to react to certain things related to, certain managerial selections across Europe ahead of the Euros, and I also want to let something off my chest. In my humble opinion, I think that there should be a merit-seniority balance in regards to how managers choose their players out of tournaments like this. And I've taken down some notes, as I think you may have noticed, with a piece of paper on the table right in front of me on top of this folder. So I'm going to try and get into this and not waste any time. I was having a chat with the OmniFoot group earlier today, and the one thing that struck me, and I think that England's squad has received more publicity than any other, the one thing that genuinely struck me in regards to Southgate's choices was the fact that Patrick Bamford didn't make the squad. I think it's fair to say that with the numbers that Bamford has had and the goals he has scored, and if you're not necessarily sure, he's currently second in the list behind Kane. He scored 17 times and assisted 7 in 38 appearances for Leeds. And that just baffles me. The fact that this striker was being questioned. You know, everyone was wondering, can you make it in the Premier League after having helped take Leeds back up? People thought that he wouldn't cut it. And yet, he's just done so well for the club. And granted, apparently from what I have heard, and I have not necessarily made the effort to check out if this was factual or not, and if you do know so, please correct me in the comments. Apparently, he has missed the most chances of any striker in the Premier League. And as a Chelsea fan, I honestly thought that was Werner. And to think that Werner's form has received that much scrutiny and Bamford's hasn't, I think it kind of annoys me. You know, double standards there. But moreover on that later. My point is, a player like Bamford should have been included in the squad. And in my opinion, and I think people would genuinely disagree with this, either one of Calvert-Lewin or Ollie Watkins could have easily been omitted because they have not been consistent. And granted, they are great strikers in their own right. Good strikers, not great. I shouldn't use that word. Greatness isn't something you achieve easily, and neither one of them have that on them yet. They can, but not yet. I think that Bamford was the much better option. And keeping in mind how different these setups are between Bielsa's setup with Leeds and the high intensity of play and how many chances they create in comparison to Southgate's setup, which, to be fair, I don't necessarily rate Southgate that much as a manager. And I think a lot of fans take issue with that. Wan-Bissaka was also a player who wasn't included. United fans haven't really reacted well to that. And, and in regards to, for example, the Spain squad, because I can't talk anymore, Luis Enrique didn't include Nacho. And according to what I've written here, Nacho has made 33 appearances, registering a single goal and a single assist. He's been consistent for Madrid. And despite that, he took Eric Garcia, who didn't play over 350 minutes this season. That baffles me. Selections like that baffle me. And on the other hand, and I'm going to put context here, Hazard has been chosen for the Belgium squad. Hazard has had a horrible season. He's had a horrible stint at Real Madrid thus far. And despite that, he's been chosen. And the only comment I have in that regard is the fact that last time he was selected for the Belgium squad ahead of a game, he recovered ahead of time from an injury he had sustained, thanks to the Belgian medical team, because Madrid's medical team are just... Madrid have sustained the most number of injuries throughout this entire season with 55. Last I checked, they were 55. Madrid's medical staff need to go. Just putting that out there. Hazard, with the Belgian medical team, I keep mixing up between squad and team for some reason, with the Belgian medical team, managed to recover and play the game. And upon returning to Madrid, got injured. And I think that the message Roberto Martinez is sending here is that I can manage to bring this player back in form while he's on the plane ahead of the tournament. Not necessarily while he's on the plane, but while he's with the squad. While he's with my medical staff. While he's with my backroom staff. I can bring him back. I think that's ambitious. And I think there's a little proof in that. However, in my opinion, I think he should not have been selected. And if we're really talking about merit here, he should not have been selected. However, and I think that merit and seniority should be split upon a 70-30 basis. 70 for merit, 30 for seniority. Hazard qualifies based on that 30% of seniority. And you have players like Alioski of Leeds, North Macedonia, and Pandev. Pandev, who qualifies on seniority, because, let's face it, he has to play at the tournament. He qualified them. He managed to score the goal that allowed them to qualify for their first ever major tournament in 27 years. You know, that's how long they've existed. And you have to give him that, you know? And another example, you know, you look at Benzema, who scored 23 times, 9 assists, 34 games for Madrid. Moreno for Villarreal, who was also chosen for Spain. Benzema was chosen for France despite the fact that Deschamps went out of his way to say, and I quote, Benzema in the French squad, I'm not Santa Claus, I'm not here to make miracles. He said that in a press conference. And I think Benzema's selection ahead of this Euro, I think Deschamps choosing Benzema is one of the weirdest backward steps. Not necessarily him just taking the team backwards. I mean him as himself after what he said. You know, like he's suddenly said that he is not going to allow this to happen in any way, shape, or form. Because, you know, that quote, I think it sums up how bad maybe their relationship is, player to manager. But I think choosing him proves that merit has to play a role. And also you have, for example, Giroud. Giroud has been on the bench for most of this season for Chelsea, and yet he's been chosen because of the key role he plays for France. People criticized him because he didn't score a single goal in the 2018 World Cup. However, he was integral in Deschamps' setup because of how brilliant the man's hold-up play is. When Giroud is deployed against a low backline, a backline with a low block, when they set up that far back, and you give that man a ball with his back to the defender, he will hold it up brilliantly and he'll know exactly what decision to make when the time is given to him. And he barely needs any time to begin with. And to think, both of these men have been chosen. One based on merit, the other based on seniority. Although both of them have an equal mix of merit and seniority, Benzema being the better player. But I think this is one of the situations that presents itself as a case study in regards to merit and seniority with how managers select their players. You know, you can't have it one or the other entirely. But it has to be sensible. And it's just odd. You know, you have teams like Spain. Spain's backbone isn't from either Madrid or Barcelona. It's from the rest of La Liga. You know, a couple of English clubs as well. But for the first time since the 2010 World Cup, no Madrid or Barcelona players have made the squad. And that's interesting. To me, the first thought that came to me was that it implied that the standards of the national team have fallen, and I think they have. They have a lot of potential, but their standards truly have fallen, considering the fact that the two best clubs in the country cannot provide that backbone. On the other hand, it gives players and other clubs a better chance. You know, you want to hear about how a player from your local club is going to be playing in the national team in an international tournament. And it's just, you know, it's odd. I think that in regards to Spain, leaving out Ramos and taking Garcia, or leaving out, you have Ramos based on seniority alone, because he didn't do that well for Madrid this season at all. He barely made any appearances, mostly due to injury. You have Ramos. You have Ramos. I think it slipped my mind. Excuse me. I mentioned him earlier. Damn. You have Ramos and Nacho. Excuse me. Both Madrid players. One could have been chosen on seniority. The other could have been chosen on merit. And seeing as though they play together, that could have been an advantage for Madrid, for Spain, and for Madrid, obviously. And it's just, it's an odd question of, I have potential here in this Spain squad, but I don't necessarily know how they're going to gel together. And I think we'll have that question answered soon when the tournament begins. In regards to my favorites for the tournament thus far, I think based on squad depth and just the names in these squads overall beyond the depth. And these are not in any particular order. You have France, Portugal, England, and I would say Belgium. I think, and Belgium really just teeter in between, But if they were a top three, I would definitely say England, Portugal, and France. All three of these teams have brilliant depth. Their managers, Southgate aside, have experience, have an understanding of what they want their players to do on the pitch beyond the, not necessarily the tactical aspect, but man management as well. And the dark horses of this tournament, in my opinion, are Belgium and Italy. If I were to include a top four, I wouldn't include Italy, but if I were to take a top three, as I've mentioned them, and then pick two clubs to play it out for that fourth spot, I would choose Belgium and Italy. Both have great managers. And yes, I actually do rate Roberto Martinez because he's done a brilliant job with Belgium. I think his choice as Belgium manager after Wilmots left was a very, very good one. And considering how well he did with them at the World Cup, where in my opinion Belgium should have reached the final, a World Cup semi-final for a manager who was managing Wigan a couple of years before isn't bad. So yeah, that's all I want to say on the matter. And this is where I'm going to end the video. Apologies for a little bit of awkwardness. I kind of lost track of my thoughts halfway through, but I managed to regain everything. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate the views I get on here. I've realized that a lot of views are basically coming from people who are not necessarily subscribed to the channel. So please do me the favor of subscribing if you enjoy our content. The links to our social media accounts are in the description below. And I will see you next time the whistle blows. Cheers, everyone.